Well, and the quality I think is important because I don't know a ton of people who get 8 hours of sleep. Lifestyle wise, everybody's got kids, everybody's got stuff going on, everybody's trying to get up early to do something or whatever, and it's like we can have quantity and quality. It would be ideal to have both, but you got to do the best.
I appreciate you taking the time to jump on this call. I know,
absolutely.
It's not everyone that wants to do this, so I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this. So I just really want to say thank you, and I appreciate it.
No problem.
How was it that you got into mouth taping?
Oh boy. Gosh, where did I see the ad? Probably Instagram. I think it's because, so I was looking for some sort of method. I had gone, I'd started snoring probably, 10 years ago. And I went and did a sleep study at the VA, which was the most horrible thing ever, doing a sleep study. I got like maybe 45 minutes of sleep all night because of all the, wires and everything.
I've heard stories. It sounds awful.
I don't know anybody that can like sleep during them.
That was one person I interviewed. Like they said, I went for a sleep study, and they were like, I didn't even sleep. So I don't know how they tested anything because they said you're just hooked up everywhere.
Yeah. Oh yeah, everywhere. And I got done, and I was like, well, they're going to tell me that, that I have to do another one or whatever. And I went back to my GP, and she said, yeah, you don't have sleep apnea. There was no apnea noted. Okay. So they sent me to an ENT, and they measured like the opening at the back of my throat, the size of my epiglottis, and the intrusion of the roof of my mouth into my mouth. And I'd known kind of my whole life that there was something up there because I yawn all the time, even when I'm not tired. Right. Like when I'm talking or reading or whatever out loud, I'll yawn. It's interesting. I don't do it when I'm like speaking publicly. It's like, but if I'm reading to my boys or something, I just yawn constantly. Or if I'm reading out loud somewhere. Anyway, and so she told me, well, that's why you yawn, because your epiglottis size for like a 1 out of 5 is a 5. The opening at the back of your mouth or back of your throat, for size 1 out of 5 is a 1. And the intrusion of the roof of your mouth into like your mouth cavity is, for 1 out of 5, it's a 5. And so she said, that's why you're yawning. That's why you're snoring. I have a horrible gag reflex. Like I can't do dental x-rays or anything. So that's why that happens. And so I was just I felt kind of stuck. Like, okay, my wife is not sleeping well. I'm not sleeping well. So I tried. It was like one weekend. I think I was home working. I'm a cop, and so my family was gone at our lake cabin for the weekend, and I was just kind of exploring it, and I stumbled on it, read some stuff about it, and then I just ordered it. I just gave it a whirl, right? And I think I've been through like a couple iterations of it. Like the recipes changed over the, whatever. Or at least it feels different. But yeah, that's how I got into it. It was like, hey, I got this. I saw it on Instagram, and I'm going to try it. And that was that.
Sweet. And take us through that first day, week, month. What's been your experience with it?
The first, probably couple weeks, I didn't really, like the first couple days, I remember having really like vivid dreams. But other than that, like I didn't have any problems really, like not nightmares. It was just like really vivid, deep dreams. And that would, it's probably a function of sleeping better. Mm-hmm. The only complaint I really had the first few weeks was the residue I'm always clean shaven, or
Right.
just a little bit of stubble on my days off or whatever. But I had around my lips, especially, I always had the black residue,
Right.
and then and it was a little bit more rigid tape, and now it's stretchier and there's no residue. And yeah,
Yeah.
I notice now when I don't use it, I have like really bad dry mouth when I wake up.
Yeah, it's funny actually. A lot of people say that. You'll say like, "What are you noticing?" They'll be like, "Not too much." Unless I stop using it,
Yep.
then it's like, well, I can't go back, right? Like it's
Yep.
yeah, it's funny. Once you use something for long enough, you're like, it just becomes your norm. And then when you
Right.
stop
Yep.
that, it's crazy to think that's how I lived for the past few years or however long it was. The dry mouth used to be my norm, so I'd wake up and I was like, oh, I guess this is just how it's going to be. But once you lose that for a month or two, it's pretty terrible to wake up back to. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned you were snoring pretty bad. Your wife wasn't able to sleep. Have you noticed that that's decreased since
Yes.
using hostage tape?
Yep. Absolutely. It's my wife said it's decreased to the point where it doesn't. If I do snore, it's more like normal. I guess um, it doesn't wake her up. She only notices it if she's awake.
Right, right. And how has that impacted, I guess, her sleep as well? Like I know for myself personally, my wife, it was elbows in the back. It was telling me to move
Oh,
onto my side, pillow across the face.
yep.
She'd be up all night. We'd be crabby in the morning because we'd both be tired. How have you guys noticed your relationship changing? I guess
I would
since
say
the
she's
snoring's gone
gotten
down.
better sleep. There's less frustration from like the frustration of I know you can't control it. Like you can't choose not to snore.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm still mad at you for it, type of thing, or
Yeah.
irritated, I should say, or frustrated with it,
Right.
because it's something that you can't control, but it affects me, right?
Hmm.
And there's less frustration of like, I swear I was still awake when you hit me the last time. Like, how could I be snoring? Because I remember you hitting me. Like, how could I be? How could I have been snoring? Like, I swear you hit me just out of reflex, right?
Right.
So yeah,
That's
that some of that like frustration has definitely dropped.
that's good to hear. What were her thoughts when you first mentioned it to her? I know you saw it on Instagram, but there's always that feeling out process of, hey, I think I'm going to start taping my mouth shut at night. What was her reaction to it?
It wasn't too extreme. I think I just said like, "Hey, I saw this on Instagram. It didn't cost much. Like, what's the what? Like, I'm just gonna try it, and if it
Right.
sucks, it sucks. Like, whatever." It was, I don't even remember how much, $20 or something like that. Like,
Yeah.
not a big
Yeah.
deal, right? And so I just like, my biggest thing was like, once we shut the lights off, like, we can chat for a little bit or whatever, but like, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to put my tape on and then
Yeah.
I'm done talking. Like,
Yeah.
like if you want to get anything in, if you want to get any more words in for the day, like get them in now because
Exactly.
I'm done. I'm not going to reply after this.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It's kind of a nice way to officially, I guess, say like, "Hey, it's bedtime now,"
I'm
right?
done. I'm nope.
I
That's
always I always
that's
tell
all I
my wife like, "Hey, good night, I love you," and then I'm like, "The mouth tape's going on now." Like, this is
Yep.
the end of the conversation. So,
Yeah.
yeah, anything you need said before this,
Say it
it's time
tomorrow.
because
Text me.
yeah, you don't want to put it on and then have to rip it off and then on
Yeah.
again, right?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, that's awesome to hear that she was pretty open to it. Then,
Mhm.
if I had to tell you, mouth taping doesn't exist, hostage tape doesn't exist, you never saw that Instagram post, you have to go back to the way it was and there's no way it's changing. What's kind of your reaction to that?
Yeah. Not super thrilled about that. Um, I yeah, I wouldn't go back. I think it's helped even, if we're traveling now, it's been quite a while since last summer. Probably like June maybe. Since so if we're traveling and I forget it, or I just pass out one night and whatever I'm reading and fall asleep. Um, it's almost like trained my body a little bit more, where I'm
Yeah.
breathing more normally through my nose. It's not as much of an issue. Like I feel like my lips almost like open, partially, and they just stay there naturally if I
Yeah.
forget. Um, but it's not something that I would want to go back to without forever.
Yeah. Yeah. Those mornings waking up with a dry mouth, to me, like that is just the worst. That's the worst. Like it feels gross. It tastes gross. Like
Mm-hmm.
you wake up, you're trying to like just chug water, but that doesn't even feel like it's doing it. It almost takes like 2 hours before you feel reset and rehydrated. Like there's nights where I'll forget to put it on, or like you say, like you're out somewhere and forget to put it on. But it's just it's so terrible when you
Yeah.
go back to how it was.
Yep.
What about at work? I think you mentioned you're a cop. Have you
Yep.
noticed? Have you told any of your buddies about it?
It was
Um,
interesting. I was in a class it was about a month ago. I was in a class with some buddies of mine from work, some other supervisors, and we were chatting. And one of the guys had a magazine that he was flipping through, and it had hostage tape in it.
oh,
And
really? Very cool.
and he's like a big like emerging fitness trend type of guy, like jujitsu instructor, like all that stuff, does yoga, like on the edge of it, right? And
Hmm.
he's like, I've seen this. What like I've seen it. It looks interesting. I've read about mouth taping. I've heard about it. And I said, well, I've been using hostage tape for like 9 months.
Right.
I'll bring you some because I have from all those nights I was traveling or forgot to put it on or whatever. Like I've got a decent stash of spares here, so I'll just bring a couple. And another coworker of ours was sitting right there, and he's like, I've heard about that too, and I feel like in the area of men's health, the last like 10-ish years have really been like that's been brought more to the forefront. Men's
Hmm.
specific health, we're talking more now about testosterone, we're talking more now about vitamins, we're talking
Yeah.
more about heart stuff. And um, I think the next thing that we're finally deciding to talk about is sleep.
Yeah.
The quality of sleep, um, the timing of sleep, what we do when we wake up, what we do before we go to sleep. We're talking about all those things, and so I think it's just natural that this is kind of when mouth taping has become. You see it on Instagram. You hear people talking about it. You see it in some fitness stuff or whatever. So yeah, they both tried it, and I honestly haven't followed up with them to see where they're at. But
Right. Yeah.
I know I brought a few strips for everybody, and
Yeah.
you can still breathe. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
trust me, nobody likes not breathing, so
No.
you can
Yeah.
still breathe. You'll be fine.
It's not gonna work as a product if you can't breathe. That's for sure. It's
Yeah, you
cool.
turn
That
purple.
it's cool, like you said. Even like your friends being open to it. It's slowly people are kind of starting to turn the tide on this, and I've it seems like in the past few years that health, and then I would say like specifically men's health, is really making a lot of strides
Mhm.
just to improve things, and like you said, testosterone and supplements, vitamins, and then this is kind of the next step. People
Yes.
don't really realize just the importance of sleep and how that 8 hours is not a waste of time. Like that gives you, that sets you up for the day, and that puts years on the end of your life as well too. Like good sleep, like you're reaping the benefits of that 40, 50 years from now too. So People just don't really realize the importance of it. So it's really cool that you brought that up.
Well, and the quality I think is important because I don't know a ton of people who get 8 hours of sleep.
Hmm.
Lifestyle wise, everybody's got kids, everybody's got stuff going on, everybody's trying to get up early to do something or whatever, and it's like we can have quantity and quality. It would be ideal to have both, but we got to do the best with what we have.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's tough, especially like you mentioned with kids. I've got 2 young kids, so it can be challenging. I always set the goal of 8 hours, but if they're up in the middle of the night, I'm up in the middle of the night as well
Yeah.
too. So it's if you are getting to bed when you are sleeping, you want to make sure that's a deep sleep, that's a good sleep, and then yeah, you want to be doing anything that I can do to improve those. Maybe it's only 5 hours, maybe it's only 6 hours. Anything I can do, I'll take. And hostage tape is definitely one of those things that anybody can do
Yeah,
to.
and the barrier to entry is very low.
Mhm.
You subscribe. It's a small amount. It's a few cups of coffee every month, basically.
Yeah,
Um, which maybe you don't need anymore because you're sleeping better. I don't know,
exactly. There you
but
go.
yeah, it's a low barrier to entry. There's no equipment because I had said if they diagnose me with sleep apnea, I'm going to try everything I can. There's some different like posit or kind of standby pressure like nose pads almost that you can use absent.
Right.
I said I'm not doing a CPAP. I'm
Hmm.
not lugging that thing around. I'm 38 years old. We travel for hockey. We travel. All two of the boys play hockey, so we travel for that regularly. I'm not doing it. Like that's an old guy thing. I'm not doing it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fair enough, though. But hey, congratulations, man. You don't have to anymore. So that's
Exactly.
pretty awesome. That's pretty
Yep.
sweet. That's a win for sure.
Uh-huh.
Well, Alex, I'll finish it off there. And I just want to say thank you so much for this. We really
Mhm.
appreciate it. It's through testimonials and stories like yours and you being willing to share that we're going to be able to help as many people as possible, help people take control over their sleep and some control back over their lives. So I just wanted to say we really appreciate this and thank you
Yeah,
so much.
absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, Patrick.